Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Maths with Mrs. Ko. Today I'm super excited to teach you one of my another favorite topics ever, finding out x using the trig ratios. Now when I talk about the trig ratios, I am talking about the three simple words. The first one being SOH, S-O-H, SOH. Second one being ka, C-A-H. And then the last one is towa. We can all say that, can't we? So ka towa. Now, I just need to explain what ka towa stand for. So in the S stands for S-I-N, sign. Now, we being the mathematicians, little lazy, we always use the first three letters of the full word in trig ratios, right? So sin is not sin, although it doesn't make any difference. If you want to call it sin, you can call it sin, but it actually stands for sine theta, equals O. So S stands for sine. Sorry, my bad. I just have to quickly erase this line, and then S equals, how I teach my kids, I just always say put an equal sign in between and then put this line, which simply means O over H. So sine theta equals O over H, which basically means opposite over hypotenuse. Now, what does theta stand for? You might have to refer back to my other YouTube video on how to label the sides of a right angle triangle using O, H, and A. So sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse is our first formula which we are going to use in this video to find out our x, right? And then the next one is cos. C stands for cos, C-O-S, theta equals A stands for adjacent over hypotenuse. Now, I'll give you a quick refresher on theta. Theta is any angle in a right angled triangle other than 90 degrees. So theta can take any value in a right angled triangle as long as it is below 90 degrees. Okay, so we've got our two formulas ready so far. Our last one, T stands for tan, T-A-N, tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. All right, now we're going to learn how to do our mathematics questions using these three formulas, our trig ratio questions using these three formulas. So let's do our first example. Example 1. I'm simply going to draw a triangle. So I have a right angled triangle here. And let's just say my theta in this triangle is something like 65 degrees, right? And I want to find out, I have been given the value of hypotenuse, which is the longest side in this right angle triangle, as 54 centimeters. You can call it longest side in the triangle. You can call it the side which is opposite the 90 degree, or you can just call it the diagonal side in a right angle triangle, whichever one's easier for you, right? Okay, now my x sits here and I want to find out how much x is in this right angle triangle. The first and the most important thing we are always going to do before we try to find out the x, or before we write down the formula, is always label the sides using H, O and A. Now my advice to you guys is always label the ones which have been given to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, see how this one does not have any value given to you at all, so you can simply ignore this side. You don't have to label it at all, because it will make the things easy for you guys to understand, right? Okay, so let's simply ignore that one. We are not going to label that one for our convenience. Now I'm going to use the red pen to label those sides which have been given to me. So side opposite 65 degrees is called opposite, and this one here, as I said, is called your hypotenuse. Now my next thing after I've done that, I will look at these three formulas here. I'll look at saw, I will look at car, and I'll look at TOA. Now when I look at the letters O and H in my right angle triangle, and I look at these three formulas, I look at this one, that one and that one, the only formula which has O and H together is the sine, isn't it? So that means I am going to bring that formula down here. I am going to write down sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse to start with. So always start your answer by writing down the formula first, because what happens in the marking scheme, every tick is worth a mark. So if you haven't done the formula, if you haven't written down the formula and the question is worth 3 marks or 4 marks, you've already lost a mark, which was really easy to get, right? Okay, so after we've written down the formula, we are simply going to substitute the values into it. Now sine stays like that, theta is 65 degrees, opposite, we're going to replace that with an x. I always use a red pen for the unknown so that it stands out in the whole thing and I know this is what I need to focus on. And then I will simply substitute my h with 54. Right? Okay. All right. Now I've completely forgot to put in my topic that this video is only for finding out x which is on the top of a fraction. Okay, because I'll have a separate video where x comes out at the bottom of the fraction. So let's just say finding x using trig ratios when x is on the when x is on the when x is on the top of the fraction. There we go. So we are ready to get back to our question now. So coming back to our example 1, now as you can see, x ends up being at the top of on the top of the fraction, right? My students always ask me one question. They are like, when they look at the triangle, when they've been given a question and they look at this triangle, they're like, how do we know that x is on the top, miss? You will never know about it until and unless you write down you label the sides first, you write down your formula, you substitute the values into it. So until you get to your third step in your answer, you will not be able to find out whether x is going to be on the top or at the bottom. Okay, just keep that in mind. So let's just quickly rub this bit and put our x back there. So x goes on the top of the fraction. Now is the time when we find out how much x is going to be. So what we need to do now, I'm going to give you another note here. So the note which I'm going to give you is simply, and this is very important note, if x is on the top, if x is on the top of the fraction, keep one thing in mind: multiply. Okay, so that's the thing you need to keep in mind to get to your final answer. So see how x came out on the top of the fraction? We simply now need to multiply these two together using our calculator to get our final answer. So x equals, put the 54 and sine 65 together. Please make sure 54 goes at the front. So what happens is, sometimes what kids do, they replace this 65 with 54, and then they just go 65 sine 54, which gives them complete wrong answer. Please don't do that. That's not right to do. So basically 54 sine 65 degrees. Now we just simply need to pick up our calculator from here, and then we need to put 54 in our calculator first. Then we will put sine 65. I'm just quickly doing that calculation. Just give me a second. So 54 sine 65, press enter, and then you go 48.94 centimeters is what your x value comes out to be. Okay, now those who struggle with the calculator, so let me quickly write down a quick note, another note for you guys. It is simply, so calculator bit is simply 54, and then you're going to press this button which says SIN on your calculator, and then you'll be pressing 65, and then you'll press enter, and you should get your answer. Okay, it is quite simple actually. Alrighty, so let's do two more examples on this topic. So the other example I'm going to do with you guys today is when to use the other two trig ratios. So let's draw the exact same triangle and move the x around. Okay, so let's just say my triangle didn't change at all. I still have 65. I like using the same values to make it convenient for kids to understand, and so that you guys can see that it doesn't matter if the values are same or something. It depends upon the position of the x, what we are going to get for our answer, right? Okay, so let's just say our x has now moved to the bottom and 54 stays at the same place. Now first thing, always label the sides. So we are going to label the sides using H and whatever. Now see, this side here doesn't have anything, so I'm not even going to put anything there. I am not going to put anything there at all, because it will just make my life hard. So I am going to label this side, which is adjacent, and this one here is hypotenuse. Again, if you struggle with labeling the sides, which is the foundation of trig ratios, and do questions using trigonometry, please watch my video on how to label the sides using HONA. All right, so after we've done that, we now need to go back here in these formulas again to see which one we are going to use. So simply, if we look at the second one, this one has A and H together in it, so we will be using our cos this time. Okay, alrighty, so we're going to get back to our question, our example. So when we get back to our example, we know that the formula, sorry, my bad, I have to just write down the formula first. Cos theta equals A over H. And we talked about how important it is to write down the formula and then substitute the values into it. Otherwise, you'll just confuse yourself. Okay, and then simply go cos theta is 65. A is your x. Again, I'm going to use red pen for that. So A is your x and H is 54. H is 54. Now see, x again comes out to be on the top of the fraction. So we simply multiply 54 and cos 65 together. That means my x is now going to be equal to x equals 54 cos 65 degrees. So I will use my calculator. I will just go 54 cos this time, 65, enter. And the answer I get is x equals 22.82 centimeters. Simple, isn't it? Okay, we are now ready for our third example. So example 3 is, let me just show you something in this example. Let me just flip the triangle around as well, and I'll show you it does not matter how the triangle's drawn. Okay, so I flipped the triangle, right? And I want to find out the x again. My 65 goes up on the top this time, and my x goes opposite 65 here, right? And my 54, sorry, it will be a bit squishy, but my 54 is going to be somewhere in here, 54 centimeters. Alrighty, so the first thing which we are always going to use to do is label the sides. This one here is my opposite, and this one here is my adjacent, right? So if I look at the three formulas now, I can clearly see that tan theta is the only formula where O and A are together. And this is what I need. Okay, so my next step, that was my first step, label the sides. My second step is write down the formula. Tan theta equals O over A. If you remember SOHCAHTOA, if you remember how to say it properly, you will never have to memorize these formulas, right? Because you can just get them out of however you say it. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do now, I will substitute my values into it. So tan 65 equals opposite is your x, and your adjacent is 54, right? Okay, cool. Now I need to find out where x is on the top of the fraction, isn't it? So we simply multiply 54 and tan 65 together, and we are going to get our x value. So x equals 54 tan, sorry, 54 sorry, my bad, 54 tan 65. And when we put that together into the calculator, we are going to get our final answer. How exciting is that? All right, so 54 tan 65, enter, and that gave me 115.80 centimeters as my answer. Beautiful. Well, that was all about trig ratios. I really hope you found this lesson helpful and easy to understand. Please do not forget to share it, and if it made maths easy for you, spread the word around. Thank you so much. Share your feedback in the comment section. Any constructive feedback would be much appreciated, and I will see you soon in the next video. Until then, keep learning maths with Mrs. Kaur.